the interrupt current would completely overpower a mega fuse. It would just vaporize it and just continuously deliver power. So today we're standing in front of our next project, this beautiful Brinkley Z3610. It came stock from the factory with an AGM battery and a Furrion solar charge controller. We gave this thing a little bit of a makeover and I'm going to walk you through it today. When they say rain or shine, battery connection 5/16 and our bus bar connection at 3/8. Make sure you use the right lug sizes so there's no resistance from wiggling. Don't forget your heat shrink and keep heating it up until you can see blue coming out. Doing electrical work in a big thunderstorm. Make sure everything is turned off when you do this. This is our new 6.4 SOOW that we pulled through the inlet side over to the passenger side. We're going to show you that in a little bit. The original cable that was attached here, the other end attaches straight to your breaker panel. And since we wanted the entire coach fed by the new inverter, we took the other end of this cable and it's going to go to the generator prep box. That's something that Brinkley provides. We have two of those boxes. We have one in the pass-through and we have one in the front. So as soon as we make connections to either side of those boxes, we can establish a loop that'll now go directly from the shore inlet line to the front of the coach, and it'll basically loop around through the generator prep boxes to your breaker panel. And since our new inverter is going to replace the old converter as well, since it is a inverter, converter, and transfer switch all in one, all we'll have to do is take the old converter out of the loop by just unplugging it. Stranded wires and making connections. A lot of people are very accustomed to twisting these wires to get them like nice and straight. When you have a wire connection like press down plates, for example, you really don't want to do that. You want to keep them nice and straight so that the compression can flatten it out like this and get solid ground and get a solid connection. If you twist it, you may have a harder time. I don't want to do it with this one right now, but if you turn it into like a ball, so to speak, the plate is going to have a much harder time making a solid connection compression. Talk about fusing real quick when it comes to these systems. So our main three types of fuses are our mega fuses, our Class T, and our ANL fuses. So the main job of a fuse is to protect the wire, right? We don't want to have spicy noodles inside that could potentially burn up the RV. Now, the secondary part of the fusing that's really important that a lot of people overlook is the amperage interrupt current rating. So what happens is we have, let's say, 3 fuses, all of them are 50 amps. If we encounter a dead short, these fuses have to be able to handle that dead short without completely vaporizing. For example, if a 300 amp hour lithium bank experiences a dead short somewhere in the system, the interrupt current would completely overpower a megafuse. It would just vaporize it and just continuously deliver power. The fuse itself is blowing, you'd still have current flowing because the sheer amount of energy would bridge the gap created by the blown fuse. And the exact same thing would happen for an ANL fuse in this specific scenario. However, the ANL fuse is able to handle more interrupt current than a megafuse. For an inverter system like this, where we have 4-odd cabling, 300 plus amp hours of battery that could potentially dead short, you want everything to stop dead in its tracks. And for that, we're using these Class T fuses. The Class T fuse with its holder, this guy here in the middle is the actual Class T fuse, and it's filled with a silica mix. So what happens is, if a dead short happens, the internal fuse elements will blow, but the silica mix will also stop anything else from transferring from one side to the other. So your actual connection of current is stopped, and this will react in milliseconds. So it will protect everything that is downstream from this fuse immediately. So from factory, this front compartment was basically empty. Yeah, we had a single AGM battery sitting under a cover over here. We had a Furrion solar charge controller mounted on the back wall, and that was basically it. So we tried to make good use of the real estate that we had. We rearranged a couple of things to bring them out of the way, so we have some proper space for our install. So first of all, we used 1/2-inch plywood on the back wall to use as our backer. This RV now features 3 165 amp hour red ODO batteries. We have our solar charge controller. This is a Victron MPPT 15035, so 150 volt, 35 amp max. It is Bluetooth enabled. For an inverter, we actually chose to go with a GoPower IC 3000 watt inverter here. This is a combination unit, so we have an inverter, converter, and an automatic transfer switch all in one. We have a DC system and we have an AC system. So on the DC side, our batteries, obviously our heart that's supplying the power. From the batteries, we have 3 individual runs for positive and negative to our bus bars back here. It is important and imperative that in big systems like this, specifically with a 3000 watt inverter, that your DC runs from the batteries are exact the same length. Any variances can cause resistance and uneven draw from the inverter. So once we land at our bus bars, we then have a connection going from the bus bar to our Victron shunt, which measures all of the loads going through the system. It is important that the only thing on the 2 battery minus side is actually the batteries. Everything else that goes through the shunt are your loads. I've seen this before where the solar charge controller would land on this specific bus bar or similar, and what happens is the system will work, but the shunt cannot register the load because it does not pass through. Okay, so the shunt is designed to measure the loads passing through it from the battery minus side to the system minus side. Our other side of the Lynx shunt is linking to our secondary negative bus bar, and this is where all of our minus loads land. So this is going to be the DC from the inverter, it is going to be the DC from our solar charge controller, and it is going to be our chassis ground. So from the positive side, we have our DC bus bar over here on the positive side. From there, we're branching off into 3 systems. We have our solar system, we have our 12 volt system, and we have our 120 volt system. Once we get to the bus bar, you can see that we have disconnects. This first one over here is our 12 volt system for the RV. So we can follow this wire through up to this disconnect over here. So we can individually turn off the 12 volt system from all the other systems. Same concept for our solar. We have our solar disconnect right here. So flipping this down will prevent any of the solar charge passing from the panels into the controller. It is also good to have if you have to work on the controller, right? Some RVs do not have separate solar disconnects, which makes working on these the same as working on live wires. You would basically have to cover your panels up just to make sure you're not potentially having an electrifying experience. The AC side, the 120 volt side, comes off right over here into this 400 amp hour disconnect switch. which then connects to our Class T fuse, which then connects to our inverter. So what's the job of the inverter? This specific one, it is here to invert power. So it's going to take our 12-volt power from our batteries and turn it into 120-volt power for our appliances and our outlets and our air conditioners inside the RV. It is here to also convert power. And that means taking 120 volt from our shore power, whether that's your house or at an RV park, and convert it into 12 volt power to charge our batteries with.